established AGR in 1964. I never heard of AGR until I came down for Rush Week, and just felt at home with the young people. In 1966, I started dating a girl from home high school.
Sandy Bonner.
Thinking back on the Legacy Fund and why do we want to contribute to it, and we talked about this as a team effort. It's often very important that the woman is a part of this decision. It's not just the man who joins or the father who gives, the family who's got lots of members. We had no members, but what we saw here was a team that worked together. The physical facilities weren't near as big. They were much smaller. We only had 35 people, but we grew this thing, and the same thing has flowed through it all the way. So what I wanted to find was something where I could give forward, something would perpetuate and go on to build better men, better relations with the college. And so we started giving to the Legacy Fund for that purpose, that when you worked hard and did the right thing for yourself, for your college, for your education, and for agriculture, there should be a reward that we can give. It's not a scholarship that you have to be in a certain college, but it's a legacy that you did the right things and you're being paid, so to speak, for doing the right things and helping the house. And our house average, the grade point average, is nowhere near where it is today, a commitment. There are houses on this campus, one of them that I worked in the kitchen crew on, that don't exist anymore because of their behavior. So this house had a different feeling. When I came here out of the dorms, it was quite a feeling, quite a change. And I give this house credit because one of the people in my room, in the bullpen upstairs, was 6 men in one room. Basically, I started out with a below 2 point, and so the house wasn't too happy with me. I basically was able to move it up, and eventually got a PhD. But he kept on everyone around, leave him alone, out. And when I would decide it was time to take a break, he'd say, sit down, you're not done yet. So I give the house credit for my being not flunking out of school, because a couple more quarters like that, and I would have been out of school. Instead of got a PhD. So all through my career, I kept running into people that were AGRs, but I had no idea. People in Kentucky, people in Washington. I traveled a lot. And as I saw these people, they, oh, you're an AGR, yeah, what chapter? And suddenly you had a bond. His name was Jim Hilton. I even got to work in his yard one day, cleaning up sticks and leaves. But the thing that was interesting was, I didn't know him. I just know that he couldn't get any money, except for postage stamps and envelopes, he would tell people, to get this thing started. Much like the Legacy Fund was having problems. Little donations, enough to keep it alive, but not make it go anywhere. Eventually, he went to another agricultural graduate and said, I can't get this off the ground. Just like Tim Howard came and said, I can't get this off the ground. What I need is one big contributor to get started so I can get more bigger contributors to make this happen. The man he went to was named C.Y. Stevens. He said, well, how much do you need? He said, anything would help that you would give. So he wrote him a check for $1 million. He did a dairy business in the East Coast and was near the end of his career, and he donated that to get that started. You know the rest of the story. The Legacy Fund, once we got one contribution, and we made the first contribution to a major contributor, and now there's 2, 3, 4. We keep on getting people that say, this is a good deal. And the reason is you're giving forward, and the quality of men that are coming out of here now, it's absolutely critical that that be maintained, because that will pay into the future. And so we're paying into the future by helping these men. So that's kind of why we joined. But then, in talking to my wife about it, her comments, she was in education for 43 years, teaching school in the middle school, and I asked her, you know, what do you think about this? And she's been to many events since 1967 to about 5 years ago when the Legacy Fund started up, trying to make these things happen. So tell them what your thoughts were.
When he asked me I used to come to the house for house parties. I went to Omaha. I mean, I was at Creighton University. So therefore, I rode the bus over here. We tried to see each other at least once a month. He either came over to Omaha or I came over here. So I came to most of the major dances, the Pink Rose Farm, the one that he's talking about where we took over the house. That was a blast. Anyway, so I got to know the people that were here. And the members of this fraternity were always very willing to help. I mean, they always found a place for me to live while I was here. You know, somebody would take me in so that I didn't have to pay for a room. And just friendly and polite. And so I always felt welcome here. So then we left. We've been married 52 years now. And whenever we come back, the members of the house are still very friendly, very helpful, and have great manners. I mean, I'm all for the manners. And being a teacher, kids and students and even students at this level need to know that they're doing the right thing. And that's what the Legacy Fund is for, is to reward is what I think of. I know he says other, but it's a reward for doing the right thing, setting goals. A lot of you were in 4-H or FFA and you set goals, and you know how that helps. And so therefore, I was enthusiastic about the Legacy Fund because I think it's a way of showing our appreciation for what you're doing, because we know what your life is going to be like after you leave here. And John still has contacts with people that have graduated from here. And I just was thrilled with the legacy. I think that everyone needs to have a reward for doing what's right. And it just helps to foster that.
I think that, you know, as we look at, that was one of the things that she's always stated. The manners, the concern, the friendliness when you come back here. It's an adult type of living situation. It's rewarding people for doing the right kind of things, and it affects your life long term. Because, you know, I know that Roger Sethman and I were talking earlier today about all the people he remembers. The memories from here are not like high school memories. I've not seen many of my high school classmates since then, but I can call up people from here and talk to them like it was just last week that we were here. I've talked to people in other universities who were never at the same place as I was, but I ran into them as an International Farm Youth Exchange, and they were from their state, but we worked together in my area of beef cattle, and they'd say, oh yeah, you were one, oh yeah. And so you suddenly have a bond, and it's this bonding that you can get and being rewarded for doing the right thing. If you're not doing the right thing, hopefully you're not here. So that's the reason we gave to the Legacy Fund, and we continue to give to it as we can, as we look at required mandatory distributions, as we get up in years now. It's only been a couple years since I graduated, but as you look at that and where do you put this that you can trust, I'm really impressed that Iowa State Foundation is now linked in with the Legacy Fund, because that means it's going to be continued in a professional manner. It's not just giving to an individual house that may not be here in a few years. It's tied into someplace that can be continuity. The tie into the Iowa State University is great. The one other thing I would say is, I remember about 8-9 years ago, when Wendy Winterstein was dean of the college, of the Ag College, her comment was, the AGRs are the house that we can depend on when we need something. They're always there. They come through for us, we depend on them. And I've seen her utilizing many things from the men at AGR, and it's really impressive.
Yeah, that was really great. One thing I did want to get is maybe like a testimony of why others should, kind of encouraging others to donate to the Legacy Fund. So kind of give that testimony and that perspective.
I can't encourage you enough to think about the legacy fund, whether it's just a contribution from your company that you're in charge of, if it's a personal company, a family farm, that you can use it as a deduction, or a required distribution, but I encourage you to give to the legacy fund because you're giving forward. And if we don't have the funds, we can't give it to these young men. And if we can't give it to the young men, why do they want to do all the things that they're doing when they can get a job someplace and make some money that way? Because money is always a problem when you're in college, probably more so now than it was. So if you can give to the legacy fund and they get a 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 or whatever the number is in the future, the point is that money is something that they can use to offset the time that they can use for other things. So it's helping to make the house better, it's making better men, and through them better agriculture, which you all have heard. So that's the thing that I think is important. Give to the legacy fund, and by doing that, you're helping the future of agriculture, the future of AGR, and the future of young men.
I'm Roger Stutzman, and